So, we all get old, we can't hack it anymore, and that's it.
Yeah.
We live in a society that values youth and attractiveness. So we generally don't like the idea of getting older or even dread it. I suspect many of us have an idea about aging buried in our subconscious that goes something along the lines of this. I hadn't planned on making a musing about this topic until I saw this beautiful scene from the new live-action Netflix show One Piece. Yeah, I may as well get the spoiler warning here. You don't need to have seen the first season of One Piece to follow the musing, but it does contain spoilers. One Piece is good, and if the sound of a wacky, fantastical and joyful adventure appeals to you and you don't like spoilers, you may want to watch it first. It also contains a spoiler for Up, a charming and animated movie about getting old, which I can recommend.
Thank you for putting up with my shit all these years, old man.
As I watched the first season of One Piece again, I noticed the show seemed to sketch a more genuine and appreciative portrayal of aging than usual, which I wanted to explore a bit more. So, without further ado, the second musing. With the rise of new communication tools, humanity started to inhabit one interconnected world, creating an arena of competing nations, multinationals, and other forces that many feel too small to change. But as reality has so many layers, it is also easy to overlook things that can motivate, console, and inspire us. Using popular media as inspiration, this channel will dive deep into loaded or depressing topics to find fresh perspectives and interesting questions. The world is built on shared assumptions. If enough people are willing to question them, play around with them, and keep those that work, we may very well find new ways forward. And have good time together along the way. This is Guided Musings.
Brutal couple of years, huh, Charlie? First Dad, then Marcus.
Seem to have reached the age where life stops giving us things and starts taking them away.
It is a question worth asking. Apart from just being a fact of life, is becoming older really such a bad thing? Sure, our bodies protest a little more every year. And the amount of experience we're supposed to accumulate just by getting older is rather overrated. Just because we're older than someone doesn't mean we know more. Some people seem to absorb less experience in years than others do in a month. To learn is to change. To change how we react to new experiences, how we communicate, which mental models we use, how we deal with our emotions, etc. And for all of us, it's easy to become set in our ways once we find our groove. But we are a generational species. And in that sense, aging is necessary. It is up to our adults to raise the next generation and prepare them for the world. so they can raise the generation after them in turn. And at the very least, we've been doing a good enough job of that to continue existing as a species. But it is more than that. What is unthinkable in one generation might be possible in the next, and just the way it is in the one after that. The world as we humans experience it is formed largely during our childhood. And although we learn along the way, especially when we're still relatively young, as time moves on, our generation is left with more and more blind spots. So when the older generation has to take a step back because of their age,
you have to know when it's time to let them go. Change is coming whether you want it or not. It's their turn now.
and a new generation of adults has to step up, humanity as a whole kind of updates its views on reality. Without aging, this wouldn't happen naturally. But on a more personal level, aging has another advantage, which is what this musing is about. From the moment we are born, we start building an image of the world around us. This image may be elementary compared to that of adults, but there's also something pure about it. Although many people move from youthful idealism to some degree of cynicism when they grow up, how children see the world can still be heartwarming or nostalgic to them.
How you been, kid?
I'm not an urchin. I'm a pirate.
Their idealism may seem less realistic, but there's a degree of truth to it too. Our experience when we're young also seems to have a violent quality about it. More of what we experience feels world-shattering because our world hasn't been shattered as often yet. Many of our deepest held beliefs and values later in life form in those intense, youthful moments. And as we grow older, we build a more complex image of the world by absorbing bits and pieces of the behaviors,
I'm sorry I didn't understand the sacrifices you made for me.
phrases,
You can spill a drink on me and I'll let it slide.
You can dump seawater on me, and I'll let it slide.
mental models,
He could have let me die on that rock. Instead, he acted like a captain. He made the tough call.
and dreams.
Free yourselves. Take to the seas. My treasure is yours to find.
Find the ultimate treasure, the One Piece, and become king of the pirates.
That we encounter and resonate in some ways with us. With trial and error, we incorporate them into our behavior and speech, and so learn to express ourselves. And while we're either clamoring for new experiences, or hiding in the relative safety of the nest, based on our still elementary image of the world, and oblivious to most of the sacrifices our caretakers make for us, it is largely up to the adults around us to judge how much of the wider world we can take in without it scarring us, and if we're lucky they do. And when they teach us about the complexities and less pleasant side of life, they also have the opportunity to be a role model and teach us how to hold on to a core of decency.
I signed an oath to protect people, to treat everyone equally under the law. And if that's not the case, maybe I'm not meant to be a Marine.
Have a seat, son. I could have been Fleet Admiral by now, but I always turned down the promotion. Do you know why? Because I'd have to do things their way. I'd lose my freedom. Do you understand?
This gives a lot of power to our caretaker over us when we're young. They can try to challenge, inspire, help us deal with our emotions.
If it means that much to you, go find it.
Look, do you want me to quit? Is that what you want?
Quitting is staying here.
Or use and abuse us for their own benefit or just to feel better. They can confirm we're worthwhile and of potential, or tell us we're fundamentally worthless and crush our dreams. This may not always be easy, but it can be a genuine joy to guide someone through the minefields we ourselves once traversed.
He really did it. No way. It's Luffy. He's a pirate.
that being a parent can be a challenging but wonderful experience is often mentioned by parents. But the show focuses even more on how wonderful it can be to be there for another person in the role of mentor, guardian, or just temporary safe haven, and the light in their journey, even if you're not related. But whether we had good caretakers or not, bit by bit, we learn about the complexity, unfairness, and darker side of the world, and expand our personality. Fundamentally, it's up to us what experiences from the past we take into the future. And this is guided by our own dreams and values, even as children.
If we keep that vow, one of us will become the world's greatest swordsman
Or woman.
to ever live.
When we are pressured by the adults around us, or have low self-esteem, we may not always act towards our own values and dreams, but it is hard to drown out that inner voice completely, and we can change our behavior once our self-esteem recovers, or the external pressure subsides. And before we know it, we are adults too. Young adults maybe, but adults all the same. And those that raised us are slowly becoming old. Besting an adult in anything when he is giving it his all for the first time, and beating the previous generation in an important skill, are often momentous occasions to us. Creating space for the next generation to grow in and treating us as equals may be hard on them, but this is for the better, as we need to learn to stand on our own 2 feet. But as we grow into our own, a new generation starts to step onto the stage too. First as children, and then later as adults. But no matter how old they get, they can probably use someone who supports them and believes in them.
When we meet again, you give it back to me. Only after you become a great pirate.
So here comes the true value of age. It confronts us with our mortality, even when we're set in our ways. As we are getting slowly closer to the end, we have to come to terms with the fact that we have achieved some of our aspirations and didn't achieve others. And while we have still dreams for the future, we can't hold on to all of them. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some dreams and aspirations are for the young, as they would require a lifetime to achieve. We are a species that can see beyond our own lives. When the end closes in relentlessly and the light of our personal ambitions begins to dim, we can see more clearly what we will leave behind, who we will leave behind. As it becomes easier and easier to step out of the rat race, it also becomes easier to take a step back and genuinely cheer for and support the next generation. With this change in perspective, we might lose some of the cynicism we gained when growing up. It can be a genuine joy to imagine those you love will prosper. And if you didn't manage to achieve a certain dream, you could take comfort in the fact there might be someone from the next generation giving it their all working towards it. The guaranteed mortality that comes from aging might be one reason why people seem to be more prone to altruism, on average, than nations and organizations. Of course, there's a myriad of examples in which individuals behave like total, but there are also plenty of examples in which people raised, supported and helped other humans at a huge personal cost, while this is much rarer behavior in organizations and nations.
So I'm gonna need you to live on. And I'm gonna need you to fulfill that dream.
And while aging might bring some perspective to humans, nations will generally try to cling to whatever power they have until the bitter end, instead of devoting themselves to helping younger nations succeed in their autumn years, clinging to their own existence until the very end. Of course, there's no guarantee this shift in perspective will happen. It will just be a bit easier. There are plenty of old people that are still working towards vindictive personal glory. But there is just something fundamentally sad about an old person bashing members from a new generation just based on their age over and over again. We also don't need to actually be at the end of our lives to have this attitude. When we start thinking about the essence of being old or ponder our mortality, we may find that in some ways we've always been old. Even as a child, there are some things you'll never experience because you weren't born later. And there are some things that you've experienced that those who come after you may never have the chance to. Not to forget the pile of dreams that even as a child you have outgrown, but might still be able to help younger children strive towards. Like becoming one of Santa's helpers or learning to fly. Besides, even when we're young, we never know for certain that we have many years left, and helping others achieve their dreams doesn't necessarily conflict with us achieving ours. So in some sense, we were already old before we became adults. We were old before we took our first steps. So aging might not be so much about becoming old, it is that the illusion of our own permanence starts to crumble. I'm still young, both in the eyes of most people around me or in my own. But I can still remember how getting on the internet sounded. And my first phone looked like this. Experiences that have faded into irrelevance long ago. And even if I try to keep up, there will come some things that are completely natural to the new generations and will remain completely foreign to me. And those things will probably make me feel a lot older once they become commonplace. I'm young enough that there are still ambitious dreams I can realistically work towards. Please like, subscribe and recommend this video to friends if you like this musing, so I can keep doing this. But I've also fostered dreams that have realistically passed me by. And that's fine. The generation that can still work towards some of my outgrown dreams is already here. Friends around me are starting to have children, and it is heartwarming to watch them develop. Their generation grows up so fast. But I can do my best to be there for those who cross my path, and I hope I get a genuine
Thank you for putting up with my shit all these years, old man.
one day from one of them as well.
Excuse me. Pardon me. Old man coming through. I'm here for him.
Congratulations, Russell. Sir?
Thank you so much for watching my second musing. I got the feedback that trying a couple shorter musings might not be a bad idea, and this topic seemed ideal for this. I'm still experimenting with the format anyway. But how do you see getting older? Do you agree with the sentiment? How can I make these videos better? Or do you know any great shows I could feature on a musing? Please let me know in the comments.